Kate, is there a provision for partners to test for their own license? Not quite. I understand you, Kate. If you're talking about for the same classification as maybe the qualifying partner holds, the general partner wants to hold it also, you cannot hold the same classification on one license. If, let's say, your general partner wants to have their own sole ownership on the side, they can definitely go, submit an application for that and have a license on the side. But if it is in reference to classifications, only one person at a time can hold the classification on any license. Omar, how many years of experience does a Bachelor of Science, Civil Engineering cover for a License B? Again, if you would reference the information that we gave you earlier, there's a possibility once CSLB reviews your official transcript when it comes in of what the amount of credit that you could possibly get. However, we can't predetermine that at this stage. We would have to see what you're applying for. We would have to see your official transcripts and take it from there. It's not something that we can pre-qualify for you right now. Can you give examples of businesses that would apply for a C61? Jordan. Well, Jordan, the C61 specialty classifications are things that aren't normally under an A, a B, or your regular C classifications. The D61 or the C61s are specialty classifications. It just depends. There are specific ones for synthetic products, the D12. If you're just doing coatings. There is a D6 for concrete related, but you're not pouring concrete. You're not doing what a C8 would do. There is the D49 as of right now for just tree service alone. Whereas a C27 landscaper can do both. The D49 can only do tree, the tree service. So there are a variety. It just really depends on what your company would do. And we would, if you're not sure when you send it in, or if you need clarification beforehand, you could always submit an email to our classifications deputy at classifications@cslb.ca.gov. You do want to give them as much information as possible, what you're using, what you're doing, what the contracts will be for, so that he can make a determination if this is actually going to be a C61 or if it would fall under one of the other categories that we already have. Tori, do out-of-state independent contractors need specialty licenses, or will another license work better? Example, does electrical painting and does electrical painting and painting? I'm not certain, Tori, what you're asking for. Let's say if you're applying for a B, as stated in our workshop, you would have to have a framing component and two unrelated trades. So if you were an out-of-state contractor, you're coming to California and you want to be a contractor here, you do have to be licensed over $500, which includes labor and materials. But let's say as a license B here, you're doing the framing component and you're going to do the electrical and you're doing painting. That would be acceptable for a B. But I'm not certain if that's what you're asking for. So if you want to give a little bit more clarification, that would be great. Ramon, my wife and I have been running a lawn care business since 2020, and I have been working with my uncles doing landscaping and tree work for the past 10 years on a regular basis and don't have documentation before 2020. Would we be able to have a couple of our good clients certify experience for us since 2020 and one client that we would personally service going back to 2015 to completed the 4 years worth of experience? So whether or not you have the documentation, you can have pretty much anyone certify your work experience. Again, in our workshop, it does not have to be a licensed contractor. You do have several options on your certification of work experience form that it tells you who can be your certifier. For example, we do have employer, fellow employee. We have a union representative. We have a business associate. There's quite a few different options that you can use. You could go back again. You can only go back within 10 years of the date of your submittal of your application, but they could very well be your certifier, listing the trades that you or whomever is going to take that exam if you apply for a license has performed for them. Surge, if I've worked as a handyman, would that mean that the customer can be used as a certifier under the designated employer? They could be the employer. They could be a business associate. It's however they want to deem themselves. We're not going to necessarily say, oh, you held a license, so you have to check this box. Whatever they see fit to call themselves in that situation is what I would recommend that they use on the form. Again, there are several different categories they can choose from. Omar, is being a city building inspector count as a qualifying experience for a license B? Omar, it does not. We do want to see hands-on. We do want to see how you got to that situation. But just being a building inspector, it does not count as qualifying experience for the B. Tony, will a bachelor and master degree total 48 months, or are all degrees worth a total of 24? So again, please reference the information that we have within the workshop about what your possible credit could be for a degree. It will never add up to the 48 months, which is required for a contractor's license. The most amount of credit that you can receive would be 36 months. But again, that is dependent upon the degree once we review your official transcript and the classification that you apply for. Lewis, I have 13 years experience working with a general contractor. Only 10 years of those 13 count. I also don't have much proof besides receipts of building materials. He only pays me cash. So Lewis, we only want 10 years. We want the last 10 years. Anything before that we're not going to look at. We want to see the most recent, and the 10 years is what is allotted by law. As far as proof, again, per the workshop, we're not going to ask you for any additional proof besides your certification of work experience completed by your certifier. If by chance you were one of the random 3% that was pulled per law, then there could be a possibility that additional information or additional paperwork might be needed. But initially submitting your application with your work experience, you just want to submit that. Again, you filling out part 1, your certifier filling out part 2 in its entirety with their detailed description of your specific duties that you worked for them. Just a reminder, because it looks like I did have one question and answer sent to me only. Make sure that you are sending it to all panelists so that we can all see the questions and give an answer for that. Also, I do want you to be aware that we do have a licensing email that you can send your questions or information to after the workshop is completed. In case there's more information, you didn't quite understand something, you can always send an email to licensing@cslb.ca.gov. Again, that is licensing@cslb.ca.gov. And then one of us will answer your questions. If we can't answer your question, we can pass it on to somebody who can in whatever your question or your issue is referencing. Also, as you can see on the workshop, what's being shown right now, if you do have to reschedule a canceled exam, you do want to send an email or you can call, but send the email to exams with an S at cslb.ca.gov. You still have some time if you want to submit a question. Okay, so Lewis, for the General B license, how long do you have to prep from the time your application is approved? Generally speaking, for the exams, dependent on how many we have in queue, I would say probably anywhere from 2 to 3 weeks. However, CSLB is now utilizing a testing called PSI. And once you receive your letter saying, hey, your application is good, please schedule your exams, you will have to register with them. And at that point, you pick a date. So dependent upon how many are ahead of you is when yours will be scheduled. From my understanding, you will have your pick of a date, and they will only show you the dates that are available. But I do not believe it's a long wait with them because there are several sites within California that can be utilized for everybody who has submitted an application and needs to test for their license. Do we have any more questions? Again, if you don't, or if you don't want to ask a question on here, you can, as I stated before, send an email to the licensing email at licensing@cslb.ca.gov. And we are pretty up to date on the licensing queue, so it would be answered in a timely fashion. Jordan, are there exams for the D class categories? There are, but it is only the law. There are no trade exams for the D subcategory classifications, but you are required to still take the law and reference exam. Okay, so it seems like questions are not coming in very much. So that's all the time we have today for our workshop. Thank you for all of your questions. If you have any other questions about your application, we encourage you to drop an email to our licensing division. Here is that email address. It is licensing@cslb.ca.gov. Again, that's licensing@cslb.ca.gov. If at some point you need to reschedule your exams, you can get that process started by dropping an email to exams with an S at cslb.ca.gov. We've also put together a list of available resources for women considering a career in construction. If you haven't already, be sure to download this presentation to get them. You can download the presentation on a green banner on the top of our homepage, www.cslb.ca.gov. If you're watching the archive video of this workshop on our YouTube page, you'll find a link to the presentation down below.
We welcome your comments or topics for future webcasts. Just drop us an email to social@cslb.ca.gov. Special thanks to our Licensing Division and Public Affairs Office for their help on this workshop. The Get Licensed to Build workshop is a copyrighted production of the California Contractors State License Board. Thank you for watching.